Hi, my name is Stacey Bell-Lynn. I spent 20 years working in local news, and 13 years ago, I married an NFL player turned coach, Anthony Lynn, and joined the world of NFL super wives. I've always loved hearing about the life behind the headlines. It's where you find the common thread that connects us. That's what I want to do here. My husband played and coached for the Broncos and 49ers. He's currently the running backs coordinator for the Commanders. We've moved 6 times across the country for his various jobs. When I first met my husband, I didn't know anything about football. I just loved the commercials and the snacks. Well, trust me, that's changed. In my new NFL world, the wives became my family and confidants. It is a sisterhood that transcends teams and rivalries. In each episode, I'll talk with a significant other of a player or coach, the football wives who hold it all together. We'll get real and give you a behind-the-scenes glimpse of it all. This is the world that I want to share with you. Welcome to Super Wives of the NFL, their inside stories. Let's kick it off. Welcome back to another edition of Super Wives of the NFL. I'm Stacey Bell-Lynn, and joining me is Deanna Engram, who is also with us at the Washington Commanders. I'll give you a quick background on her husband because we have so much to talk about. Deanna, your husband is Bobby Engram. He played, and now he's coaching for the Commanders. What is his position? Is it wide receivers or tight ends?
Wide receivers coach.
Wide receivers. Okay,
he played as a wide receiver when he was in the league.
Now we're going to get into, you guys have a foundation to raise awareness about sickle cell anemia, which is very near and dear to you. So we're going to get to that. But just give me a little background on, you and Bobby. Where did he play and how did you guys end up here with the Commanders?
So Bobby and I met in college at Penn State in 1993. We were studying in the Hub, a place that normally neither one of us studied. So it was like a by chance meeting. We hung out afterwards, and it was kind of like a love story. It was like love at first sight for me and Bobby. When we met in 1993 at Penn State, we were together from that point on. Bobby asked me to marry him in 1995, so we were engaged. And then in 1997, we were married, and we've been married for 28 years. Let's see, when he got drafted, it was second round. He was the 53rd pick in 1996. He has played came out with Chicago Bears for 5 years. Then he played for the Seattle Seahawks for 8 years. Then he finished up with the Kansas City Chiefs. And Bobby retired in 2010, the end of 2010, after 14 years in the league, which was wonderful. We kind of had 4 children during that time. And Bobby said he was going to take some time off, and we were going to kind of travel and just figure out exactly how we wanted to move forward after, he was a player, and he knew he wanted to be a coach towards the end of his career. And so he retired in December of 2010, and January of 2011, Bobby got a job as a coach for the San Francisco 49ers. And so our plans to travel the world were short-lived.
That always happens. Yeah, that happens.
So let's see, he coached with the 49ers. He coached out there for a year, and then we went to the University of Pittsburgh, where he coached for 2 years. It was at a period where he wasn't sure if he wanted to coach NFL or college. And so he wanted to see where his greatest value and where he could make the best impact. And so we were there for 2 years. And then from Pitt, we went to the Baltimore Ravens, and we were there for 8 years. He was the wide receivers coach as well as the tight ends coach there. Then he got an opportunity to call plays and be the offensive coordinator for the Wisconsin Badgers, University of Wisconsin. And we were there for a year, and then God led us here. And now he is the wide receivers coach currently for the Commanders, the Washington Commanders. And this is going on our 3rd year here.
Okay. Now I want to talk about, we'll get into sickle cell anemia and we'll get back to some of the football stuff, but this is what we want to try to raise awareness about. So when you guys were engaged or married, I have my notes here, you tested and realized that you both had the gene for sickle cell anemia?
Yes. And so we didn't find out until we were pregnant with our first child that either one of us had the trait. And so they did genetic testing, and they said there was a 1 in 4 chance that we could have a child born with sickle cell disease. Bobby was born with sickle cell disease. She had a trait from both myself and Bobby. and she was born with sickle cell SC. And we knew.
And I want to clarify something quickly. Your husband is Bobby, Bobby, and your oldest daughter is Bobby, Bobbi.
Yes,
So we'll reference both Bobbies,
right.
but your daughter Bobby
My
was
daughter
born.
Bobby was
Yeah.
born with the disease, and it's a hereditary blood disorder that causes the sickle cell shape of the red blood cells, which get stuck in any blood vessels that are throughout your body, and it causes excruciating pain. And when Bobby was born in 1998, little Bobby, our daughter, there was no information. We were essentially given a pamphlet and a death sentence that she wouldn't live a long life, and it would be a very rough life for her. And that was about it. And so we started doing our own research. And we knew that we weren't even aware of the difficulties and the extreme pain and the crises that you go through sickle cell disease. We had to be made aware of a lot of different things. And so we did our own research, and because we've been all over the country, we were able to talk to a lot of different doctors. And when little Bobby was about 9, she had a really rough pain crisis, and she was in the hospital. And she said, what do other children do that are suffering with sickle cell disease, that both parents may be working or they left in the hospital alone? Do they even get the medication they need? And so we started, wondering about those things too, as we were entrenched working just strictly with Bobby and consumed by her care. She was thinking about others. And so she led us to think about others and other warriors that were going through this debilitating disease. And so we got together, and it's really her, Bobby, the two Bobbies really formed it. I came in kind of late, but she decided that she wanted to form the Bobby Engram Foundation to help other warriors. And our motto is Teach, Care, Cure. And we started in 2007, and we started raising awareness. So we were in the teaching area, spreading awareness through 5Ks, celebrity softball tournaments, blood drives, and a lot of times on TV to just share what sickle cell is and how it affects people. And sickle cell disease is a disease that affects everyone. So it's like dropping a pebble in the water and watching the ripples. It affects everyone in your family, not just the warrior, the caretakers, the siblings, the grandparents. And so we moved forward with it, and we've been all over the country. And as little Bobby grew, we transitioned into the care part, and we started offering scholarships and taking care of warriors, taking care of their families. We started bridging the gap between warriors and medical staff.
Okay.
And so that was the care part. And recently we've moved into the cure part, and we'll share a little bit about that.
And I want to talk about too, so how is it different? Because we have to bring this up too. Your youngest daughter, Phoebe, you have 4 kids,
Yeah.
2 boys, 2 girls. Bobby, Dean, Trey, and Phoebe.
Yep. So Bobby would have been 27 this year.
Okay.
Dean is 25. Trey is 19, and Phoebe is 14.
So in the midst of, like, you're an NFL wife, you're having kids, you're moving, you're supporting your husband, and you're also the primary caregiver for your child who has a debilitating disease.
Yes. And so it was, care is different all over the country. Some people are more aware of sickle cell disease than others. And so sometimes you have to go in. I suggest that every warrior has an advocate. I do not suggest you go into the hospital without one. And we were trying to bridge the gap in care. As Bobby got older, she became more, so there was more people to care for. And so as a child, they care for you. It's basically 0 to 20. And so, there are a lot of doctors around, a lot of people helping the children. As you get older, there are more complex things that the hospital is dealing with at the time. And so your care gets pushed back as a sickle cell patient, because a lot of times you don't look like what you're going through. And so there's a lot of inequities there. She had to wait in the emergency department for hours before she would be seen. Sometimes she was looked upon as a drug seeker as she grew older. And so she made sure that I was there. If you go to a hospital that's not familiar with your condition or familiar with you as a patient, there may be a lot of questions before you can receive your care. And so having an advocate is highly recommended for people that have sickle cell disease.
So we have to bring this up too. Your youngest daughter, Phoebe, was later diagnosed with sickle cell.
Yes.
How have you seen the attention to sickle cell and just the care and the knowledge about it change between those two diagnoses?
It's been amazing. There's definitely a lot of work that still needs to be done, but the work that has been done has been tremendous in helping Phoebe. Her care is a different level. There's more awareness. There's more concern and understanding about sickle cell disease all over the country now. And so Phoebe's care is different than Bobby's, where for Bobby, we would typically have to go into the hospital and fight for her care.
Mm-hmm.
For fight for her medication. And it's just the way it is. But for Phoebe, it changed. And they started understanding that sickle cell disease affects every organ in your body. And so after Bobby's long battle with sickle cell disease and she passed, I knew that the story wasn't going to end like that for Phoebe. And so there's been a lot more scientific advances that have come since Bobby has passed. And they have a curative therapy that Phoebe received, and it is a stem cell transplant.
Okay.
And it's from the bone marrow of my youngest son, who was a perfect match for Phoebe. And so we had to undergo testing. But we did this for Bobby, so I was familiar with it, but none of us, unfortunately, were a match. And so with Phoebe, Trey was 99.9% match, which is less than 10% for all sickle cell warriors in the world. And so she recently underwent stem cell transplant therapy, and she is cured.
That is, that is God. I was going to say amazing, but that's God.
100% cured. So February 12th was when she received it. And so we're about 75 days or so out, and she's doing exceptionally well. We have weekly appointments. It started off, we would have appointments with doctors at Children's National Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then it went to Monday, Wednesday, and now it's just every Wednesday where she gets her blood work done. And she'll be under doctor's care for a year. And then the next 5 years, it'll be, occasional appointments to just monitor. But she is part of a research group, and hopefully Phoebe will be the blueprint to help a lot of other warriors receive this cure.
And I know you don't live in this space, but I think you and your family and your commitment to educating and curing this disease and being advocates for warriors with it, you guys, I think largely in part contributed to, where we are now and being able to fight this, because many years ago, right, the prognosis was not good.
Yeah.
And now your daughter can look forward to having a long, full life.
Amen. And so it is a family foundation. My children, my sons are involved as well. They speak all over the country when asked about sickle cell disease, and that's their why. They are college athletes, and they want to raise awareness. They participate in all of our walks and our blood drives. My oldest son spoke to his entire football team to make sickle cell awareness a part of their life and what it is. And so they understand. And I think that's what it's going to take, this next generation, to not only spread awareness, not only to care for warriors and their family, but also help us in spreading this cure so it's available globally.
So blood drives, why are blood drives so important in the fight against sickle cell?
Blood drives are the lifeline for people with sickle cell disease. A lot of times they need transfusion, which is replacing sickle blood with healthy blood cells. And so that way, Bobby had blood transfusions. Phoebe's had blood transfusions. And they go in pretty weak and depleted and in a lot of pain, and they come out, and it's just amazing the transformation that takes place from receiving blood that does not have sickle cells in it. We partnered with the American Red Cross in 2022, and we've had blood drives all over the country. We still have several going with faith-based institutions. And we partnered with also community-based organizations. And again, we have blood drives that are still going on all over the country. Um, Within our church here at St. John Baptist Church, they continue to have them. Again, it's the lifeline for people with sickle cell disease.
Now, is sickle cell mostly found in African Americans?
Yes, yes, it is.
And it has to be, it's inherited. So one or both parents must, have the gene or be susceptible to it.
Yes, yes. So a lot of people they have a space now where you have trait testing. So all children now, all African American children that are born in this country, in the United States, are tested for the sickle cell trait or disease. Um, and that is recent. I think it started around 2018. As far as adults, there are adults walking around that don't know that they have sickle cell trait. And so it's important to know your standing because when you do get married, if you marry someone with trait, you have a chance of producing a child with sickle cell disease, which wouldn't change any of our decisions, but it's just knowledge is power. And again, we had no idea.
And so neither one of you even knew that you carried the trait.
Nope.
So nobody else in your family had it, and it just hit. I
Actually,
guess.
we're not sure because,
Okay.
again, we're not sure which parent passed the trait on to us, but it definitely came from our mother and father.
Okay. And that's interesting, because just I think historically, I think especially in Black families, and I'm just going to be honest, there could have been an issue, but people just maybe passed it off as something else or didn't know, and they just dealt with it,
Yeah, it's
historically.
hard to
Whereas
go to the
now,
hospital. That's right. It's hard to go, and even now with sickle cell disease, like Bobby would fix herself up so she looked appropriate going to the hospital, and because of different things that have taken place within the Black race as far
Mhm.
as medical experiments. People are a little scared to go to the doctors. They're sometimes skeptical, and so they'd rather stay home and deal with an issue as opposed to understanding the symptoms and how to treat it.
So within your foundation, now Phoebe has Phoebe's Corner. How
Yes.
did it impact her watching her sister go through this? How has this impacted her fight against sickle cell?
Yeah, Bobby and Phoebe they were two different personalities. And so Bobby was a lot like her dad, easygoing,
Mhm.
and, kind of go with the flow. Phoebe's a lot like
Phoebe
her
has
mom.
your personality, I guess.
Yeah, Phoebe's a little bit more feisty. And so, Bobby trained Phoebe up. And so Bobby, they would go to their clinic visits together, and Bobby would tell her, this is what you need to do in order to stay healthy. And this is what they'll do. She stayed on Phoebe about drinking her water, so she was hydrated. She stayed on her about her diet and things that she should eat and should not eat. But she also told me that Phoebe was strong and she was feisty, and she was going to need that to deal with this disease. And so she kind of paved the way for Phoebe,
Mhm.
and she was Phoebe's probably one of the only people that she ever knew that had sickle cell disease.
Yeah. So what is a day like this, Phoebe? I know she goes to school, but are there extra precautions because she might get sick? Or I know most of that, or hopefully some of it is behind you
It is.
now, but what was it like for her just having to was she sick? Did she have to be careful about, getting germs or whatever?
Yep. So we had to be extra, her immune system suppressed because of sickle cell disease. And so we had to be very careful, especially during COVID. Our lives changed completely. But we just made sure, you have to troubleshoot. And so before we travel, we check the weather. Adverse weather can affect Phoebe. So if it's extremely hot or extremely cold, those temperatures can cause a pain crisis. If she's not hydrated enough, that can cause a pain crisis. If she hasn't gotten enough sleep, that can cause a pain crisis. And so there's a stress. Stress is a high, it can cause a pain crisis. And so we would do our best to try to make sure that we went before her and handled some of these things, even on like a beach trip. We made sure she had covering. We made sure she wasn't in the temperature of the water can affect you. and you can get out and have a pain crisis. And so we try to allow her to live, her and Bobby, the most normal lives they can, but recognizing that they do have special needs and to treat them as such.
But you really haven't. I know you said it's affected your family, but it seems like you guys have really tried to live as normal of a life as possible in spite of everything you're juggling, which is just fascinating to me.
Absolutely. There's nothing, they can do everything. So Bobby would always say, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And she could, and she did. She graduated with honors after missing excessive amounts of school. She worked very hard. A lot of times Bobby would be hospitalized for up to a month. And so it created a lot of anxiety returning and transitioning back into school. But she kept after it, and she graduated with honors from high school, and then she went on to Towson University, where she did very well up until she was 20 years old, and God took her home.
That is just, and you guys throughout it all, you've sustained your 28-year marriage in the NFL, moving, job changes. And I know it's a wide open question, but how do you do it? I would imagine God is at the forefront of it all.
Absolutely. God keeps us. We have a strong relationship with the Lord. All my children do. Long after we leave here, your children are going to need direction, and we seek the Lord. We inquire of the Lord for every step we take, and He's kept us. We are still dealing with grief from Bobby, being called back home in 2018 as a family. That was very hard. And we leaned on our church and our pastor, who was a grief therapy coach. And he really helped us. He gave us tools as a family. And we were very open. And we lean on each other. And we're a very close-knit family. And so, but at the same time, we recognize that the boys, they recognized that their sisters needed extra love. And they were there for them. So we would have, picnics in the bed. If Bobby wasn't feeling well, we have a big, giant California size bed. And so, we made sure all the kids got in, and we did things to include them in ways that they could be included and felt good. Bobby made sure like our pool had a heater in it. So we had a heated pool. We had an indoor pool for Phoebe. He built a spa. So there were things that we did to make her quality of life as best as possibly it could be. I would say. And so as a family, we rely on our faith, we pray, and God guides us, truly. I mean, we've been through both extremes. So to have one child pass from this horrible disease and to have to bury your child is something unthinkable that I wouldn't want any other parent to ever have to go through. And so that's why we have this space. And when Bobby passed, Phoebe was like, we got to get going. We got, that's not going to be my story. She said, so we got it. And she was 8.
That's amazing. At 8 years old, she had that foresight that she could make a difference.
Yeah. So she wanted to go to a completely different medical staff. So we went to a completely different hospital. She's kind of funny. And she said it didn't work out so well there. So she said, let's move on to a different place.
That is funny.
And so that's what we did. And so, the doctors at Children's National are amazing here in DC. A special shout out to Dr. Campbell, who is her advocate. And I do not believe that Phoebe would have underwent the bone marrow transplant if it's not for his advocacy and his knowledge and the entire staff. And so I think we have to do a better job across the board making medical services available for all of our warriors. Mm-hmm. There's some pockets in the country where because the doctors have only probably had a paragraph or two about sickle cell disease, you have to go in and inform the doctors about your disease. That has to change.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk about now. I want to talk about some of the NFL stuff, because in dealing with everything you've had going on with your family, you've had this wonderful NFL life too. So I always thought I associate your husband with having been with the Seahawks, the Seattle, but you said you were drafted by Chicago.
Yep, Chicago
Right.
Bears for 5 years. Yep.
So we've got the draft this week. Do you remember what it was like him being drafted?
It was so exciting. We had both sides of our family up. It was definitely stressful. I think the first and the second round in 1996. Forgive me because it's been a while, but I believe that they were on the same day, and so Bobby went the first day, which was a blessing.
Yeah,
But
because you didn't have to sit around wondering what was going to happen.
yes, all these names were getting called, and and family members start getting restless, and they have things that they want to say. Although they're supportive, they're trying to be supportive, but they're also wondering what's going on at the same time. And so when Bobby's name was called, it was such a relief. We were so excited. He's worked all his life for that moment. And, to be called into the NFL and to see him reach his dream and achieve his dream was absolutely amazing. It was just a moment I'll never forget.
Now, so then you go on. Did you guys win a Super Bowl with the Seahawks?
No, unfortunately, we went to the Super Bowl, but
Oh, that's right. I remember that game. Yeah.
you remember the game against the Steelers. We're not going to rehash that because that turned into a whole different conversation.
Go is such a big deal, and it's so cool.
It was exciting. It happened to be my oldest son's birthday,
Okay.
and he turned 7 years old. It was February 5th, 2007. And we had front row seats to watch it up close and personal. The whole experience was great, to be around all the wives and, just to have that opportunity of a week of just enjoying each other and hanging out with our children. And it was one big family. And that's typically what the NFL wives are. We are sisterhood. And so
And
it
I
was nice.
talk about that too, because that's why I wanted to do this podcast to just highlight some of the stories about the sisterhood in the NFL. How has that sisterhood, just tell me about it. What has it meant to you over your 28 years or so in the NFL?
Our challenges are so unique. So you need a sister that understands what you're going through. You need a sister that understands different things that take place during the season and different things that take place during the off season. Older wives have helped me along the way. Younger wives have kept me involved in what's going on. And so I don't get too caught up in his career. But you also have to make sure that you have time for yourself and in your, I have other businesses I run. I own 2 childcare facilities that I've had for 25 years. I have real estate. And so, you have to make sure that you have your life outside of the NFL world. And that's where the NFL wives come in. And, we build each other up. It's a sisterhood. And so it's great to lean on them because, again, we have unique problems. And a lot of times you can't share them with the world because it's, you can't share, say, your husband gets injured. That's not something you can share with everyone because it's sensitive information. And if it gets in the wrong hands, you're in trouble. And so to have a sister that you can lean on and in confidence and know that you can privately discuss some things makes all the difference.
And they get it, which is another thing. You can say things to other people and they'll say, oh, what are you so upset about? Your husband makes so much money. Well, I mean, he still got fired. So yeah, that's great. He's still getting paid, but it sucks that he got fired. So,
and we still have to pick up the pieces.
Exactly. Yes. Because they walk around in the tank, at least for a minute, for a minute.
Yep.
Gosh, there's so much to talk about. What do you want your impact to be, your legacy to be, as far as educating and teaching and curing sickle cell? I know what it is, but I want to hear you tell me.
I want to be known for not only the organization that helped cure sickle cell disease, but to bring all the organizations together as one. Right now, we're operating almost in a silo. There's this area that they're working on. There's this space that they're working on. I'd like to collaborate and bring all the sickle cell organizations together and operate on one accord and share information. And I would like to globally find a cure and eradicate this disease. And I'd like that to be my legacy.
So what can we do to the people listening or people we talk to or just, as individuals, what can we do to help with that?
Yeah, first you can educate yourself and understand what sickle cell disease is and get a foundation of, what it is and, and how you can come alongside a sickle cell warrior. Sometimes, just showing up at the hospital is helpful. Sometimes, if you're in school and they're your peer, helping them with work, bringing, telling them what took place in class to keep them up. If you're a family member, supporting them, loving them. And if you have, if you have money that you can donate to help, that would be great too. Blood drives are essential. That's one of the smallest things you can do as an individual. We all have blood, right?
Yeah.
So if you take time out of your schedule, maybe once a year, even if we could get the African American community to donate blood, we're really at a low right now. And so that's the minimal you can do in order to help sickle cell patients.
So when we're donating blood, do we have to look for an organization that works with sickle cell or how do we go about that?
The Red Cross, and you can go to any blood drive, but you can let them know that you would like this to be designated for sickle cell warriors, and they will put a blue tag on your blood, and it will go directly to sickle cell warriors after they go through and make sure there's no impurities, and they go through and purify the blood. But it'll be designated for sickle cell warriors.
I did not know that. That's something simple that we all can do.
Yes.
And I always like to close out by asking, what has this NFL sisterhood meant to you?
We've been in the league now for 25 years.
Yeah.
It's amazing through playing and coaching. And it's an unbelievable platform. And you have an opportunity to share and help others and give back. And, when God blesses you, you're blessed to be a blessing. And
Amen.
you're here to help others. And so my greatest joy is giving back. And so having the opportunity that my husband, he works really hard and he allows me to be in this space to share and have the time. And so for me, just to have this platform to share and to help other warriors is invaluable to me.
And you guys do a lot of things. Did you do a blood drive or something with the team last year?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So, you really live in your purpose. You are really walking the walk and talking. You're doing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have 5Ks. We support 5Ks. We support other organizations and what they're doing. We support As One Foundation that they are doing an excellent job in the trade space. We support warriors through scholarships, especially those that are excelling academically, because it's hard enough going through a crisis and keeping up with just emotionally, mentally. And then you have this whole academic piece. Right. And so when they go through these obstacles and these trials, we want to reward them because they've worked very hard. And so not only raise awareness, not only care for them, but the ultimate goal is to find a cure for this debilitating disease.
Deanna Engram, thank you so much. You and Bobby and your family, are doing such great work to help educate people about sickle cell anemia and eradicate it. And I wanted to talk about it this month because it is Minority Health Month. So just one of these things that we can shine a light on, to maybe hopefully one day eradicate this disease. So thank you. I know you're busy. You have a lot going on, so I appreciate it.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for this opportunity to share about sickle cell disease and the NFL Wives Sisterhood. And thank you for what you're doing. I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. This is Deanna Engram. Her husband is Bobby Engram, wide receivers coach with Commanders. Yay. So I will see you probably in a couple of months. All right, Deanna, thank you.
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay, thanks for listening, and thanks in advance for liking this podcast and leaving a review. Meet you here next week.